Hello and welcome back to
I
the...
lost it.
Okay. Ready? Hello.
Am I coming in again?
Yes.
No, I'm
Ready?
just having fun.
Okay.
Hello and welcome back to the Weird and Proud Podcast.
It's Sam and
James.
James.
I still lost my voice from the Packer game, so
I know
that was a
James's
struggle.
voice is a little rough today, so apologies in advance. Hi everybody. Also, apologies that we missed last week. I know I had a lot of confused messages, and I did put it out as a story on an Instagram story on the Weird and Proud Pod, saying that we would be having a week off. And I know some of you didn't get it, so apologies. We're back. We are back. Even though I've been having some technical difficulties, so I'm like praying to God that this is working. I really need to upgrade some equipment. And I keep putting it off, but I really need to do that. So anyways, it's just been crazy. Hi, James. How are you? What's going on?
It's football season.
It's football season.
Everything's fantastic.
I feel like I don't even want to bring it up, though, because I feel like things are not looking good right now.
Oh, my fantasy teams are in the garbage.
Yeah, and you've been
2 out of 3 of them.
so hard.
I've been practicing so much.
You practice so hard.
In the science corner, we're going to talk about that.
Oh, Jesus H. Well, also, just to give an excuse to, we were in Maine last week.
Yep.
So it was like part of the reason. Like, I know it wasn't completely planned. Literally, we were rushing out the door to get to Maine because I had shows in Maine, and then we were just staying for the long weekend, and we were going to do like a family episode. I think we had mentioned that. Like, we were going to bring the podcast equipment up and do like some weird interviews of, my brother, my dad, some burning questions that people have been asking, like, when did you know Sam had a big mouth? Has Sam always been this weird? Sam and James' story, what they thought of James, stuff like that. It was going to be really fun, but literally packed everything, was like getting ready to go. And then we were in such a rush to get out the door Thursday because we had to get up in Maine to do the shows, and I forgot to bring all the podcast stuff.
You already had a show, and like a show is a stressful weekend.
Yeah.
And everybody gets 2 weeks off a year, so we're going to do 50 podcasts. And 2 weeks we won't.
And I was going to say, we have not taken...
We've done them over the holidays.
Not to try and justify, because I did really feel bad. Like, I do really feel bad.
Next time, maybe instead of stories, I'll post it on mine so everyone can see it.
Everyone's following.
Maybe we'll make it a post instead of just a story.
Yeah,
so
I should have made it a post. But I do always feel really bad when people are messaging me like, I always look forward to it. I keep refreshing it, and I just feel really bad. So I'm sorry, but we've been really good about not missing an episode. Even when we were like in Fiji and stuff, we always bring it with us. I totally forgot. And then by the time we were home, a lot of people I feel like took off the week last week anyways. It was like most people are probably out and about on Labor Day anyways. Anyways, so I apologize for that.
We'll talk about that in the science corner.
Talk about what? Feeling bad?
I'm leading you towards the science corner. Yes,
I know. Well, James won't tell me what his science corner is about, which makes me extra nervous. But we do have an amazing show for you today. It's spooky season, you guys. I feel like we have so much to catch up on. Because of course it's my favorite season, spooky season. There's so much good content out right now, and I feel like good content even more coming out. Obviously, we both love scary movies. We both love, we've already talked about this, but we both love
Fall's number one.
Yeah. And it's a great time of year. I feel like this is really when I flourish.
The weather,
the food,
football for this guy.
Football. I know James has football, but also I feel like there's been more content come out recently in the last couple weeks, and I just have time to catch up on. And we're going to get into some of that today because I absolutely have to talk about Chimp Crazy. And the fact, James, that part of the story takes place in Stamford, Connecticut.
I was unaware of this.
I know, which I totally, I can't remember if I actually knew it or if I just forgot, but when I saw it, it is such a wild show, whether or not you guys have seen it or not. There's really no like spoilers to it. I'll kind of just give like an overview of it and the story that they talk about that takes place in Stanford. And then I feel like with the couple of episodes before Halloween, I feel like I'm going to try and have some sort of spooky topic that I've been obsessed with recently. And one of my spooky topic obsessions recently has been haunted tunnels. The other week, well, the last podcast we were talking about haunted caves and my in like just crazy fear of, first of all, being in a cave. Like caves are one of my biggest fears,
Yes,
being in a cave. But I
you and
also,
claustrophobia is a real
yes, I'm
thing.
very claustrophobic. But I also too, tunnels are so incredibly scary too.
Which one are you more scared of?
Well, I feel like caves are, there's just more unknown with a cave.
You do pretty well in like subway systems. That's a tunnel.
Yeah, I do. And I think I've just become used to it. Like it's the same thing. Like, if I think about it too much, sometimes when there's like a lot of people, if the subways are really, really busy, and then it's like, oh my God, we're literally underground. Like anything could happen and we're stuck down here and there's
Do you
so many
feel
people.
better
How
when
can we
there's
all
a
get out?
lot of people around or when there's
Less. Oh
very
my God,
few?
none. No people.
See, I'm the opposite on a subway. I like it when
Really?
there's a ton of people around.
Okay, well, that's crazy.
I feel like all the creepiness happens when there's less people.
Well, yeah, like you're talking about people acting crazy.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I guess. Okay. I can see that too.
Safety in the masses. I'll take it. Because
Okay,
I'm
fine.
faster than most of them. And if something does go down, I can get out of there
Sure.
very quick.
Sure. I couldn't see you getting in an actual fight with anyone.
That's why I said I'd run. I'm faster.
No,
if a tiger gets down there, I don't have to be the fastest. I just got to be
Tigers.
faster than everybody else.
Exactly. And then James has his mysterious science corner with whatever it is you're going to talk about. I'm nervous. I'm scared. I just said no football.
Wait, what?
Wait.
No, I'm kidding.
And then of course we have some amazing secrets. We're getting a lot of good spooky ones. We've got some good embarrassing stories. But definitely a good mix and some that made me giggle. So great episode. Also, you guys, and I talked about this on Instagram, but this I am so excited about. We are going to Arkansas at the end of the month. Speaking of spooky, if you know a lot of the top haunted places in America, in the world, James is looking at me like
I want
psycho.
I want to know more. I want to go I know that there's a lot of feral hogs.
What?
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's a lot of feral hogs. The Razorbacks, like the college team down there is Arkansas Razorbacks.
Okay.
There's a lot of feral hogs down there.
And where do you think you're just going to go on the streets looking for feral
No, I
pigs?
want to know where somebody cooks one.
What?
I want to go to a pig cookout.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that offline.
I thought we were talking about Arkansas.
We are, but we're not going feral pig hunting.
I want a hog.
No. Okay. One of the most haunted hotels, technically probably is one of the most haunted places too, in the US, and also some would argue in the world, it's called Eureka Springs, Arkansas. It's in the northwest corner of Arkansas, and it's called the Crescent Hotel. And it is so spooky. I found out about this place probably from one of my ghost shows, and I've been following them online because they also, by the way, they have 2 hotel cats, which is another reason why I'm obsessed with them.
Okay, now this sounds awesome.
Yeah, they have 2 hotel cats, and they do all these they really lean in, of course, to the ghost haunting of it all. You can even just go there just for ghost tours. And they also, it just looks like a really cool place to actually go away for a couple days. Which I never thought Arkansas would be on my list of places I want to travel to, just because it's so random. But it looks like so much fun. The whole town is a very old historic mining springs town, and a lot of people believed that these hot springs in this area could change your life and change your health. People, again, would go there with these ailments, and there was this idea that you would take a bath and sit in one of these hot springs and you could be cured, which is what ended up happening with the hotel that's built, this Crescent Hotel. Before it was a hotel, it was a hospital where this guy said he could cure cancer. And of course,
Not true.
not true. So, and a lot of people ended up passing away on site, and there's just a bunch of crazy stuff that happened. So it's super, super haunted. And we are staying in the annex. We actually have a jacuzzi in our room too, which I want to like double check if that is like the hot spring water. I probably not, but a girl can dream. But apparently it is part of the hospital where like the sickest of sickest patients went.
Oh.
That's where we're staying. That's where our room is.
Spooky.
So, and on top of that, which is going to lead us into our next story or our next segment, there is a big cat refuge like 20 minutes away from the hotel. One of the like most reputable big cat rescues in the entire US is 20 minutes away, and they actually a lot, well, I shouldn't say a lot, but they have a good amount of tigers at the refuge. It's called like Tuberlane Creek. They've rescued a lot of the Tiger King tigers.
Really?
Yeah, they have like 5 or 6 tigers from the whole Tiger King
So
fiasco.
the difference, just for everyone to understand, when you say reliable, do we know exactly
Reputable.
what that means?
Well, it just
Reputable?
means that, like, they work closely with PETA. They are technically, I think they're also listed as like a sanctuary,
Okay.
and they only take on like the sickest of sick, and a lot of them, and this is why it's going to go into the next story, a lot of these animals are taken from dumb ass ding dong Nimrod humans.
Is that a scientific term?
It is a scientific term.
Checking.
That think that they can own exotic animals,
Yeah.
and buy these exotic animals off the dark web somewhere. And then, a year later, a couple years later, after these animals grow up, they realize, oh, this animal's trying to kill me.
Yeah.
And
it doesn't like you.
And it doesn't like you. It wants to kill you. And it goes to the sanctuary. So they're all like, because a lot of those like Tiger King and even like, those more zoo like, which is how zoos get a bad name, sometimes are they're buying the animals or they're breeding, getting them from breeders for entertainment purposes. And this big cat refuge is not technically wasn't built for entertainment purposes. Like, obviously they need to make money so people can go and just watch from afar.
You got to fund it somehow.
You got to fund it, but
they're doing it the right way.
Yeah, and they also are like, we hope one day that we are closed. We hope one day that we don't have to be here anymore.
Yeah.
Like, and we don't have to keep doing this. But
the PETA thing makes me feel good because PETA ain't going to stamp its name on something.
Around.
No.
And they're one of the sanctuaries that, funny enough, we're going to talk about from Chimp Crazy, that PETA works with. So if they have these crazy situations where ding dongs, have exotic animals, then they can go to a place like this to be like, we know that animals are really well taken care of. Their enclosures, quote unquote, are massive. They're like one of them, like one of the tigers is like 200 yards of space. Like,
and normally
massive.
these ding dongs put them in like 20-foot cages. Yeah.
In their basement. And never let them out and feed them McDonald's all day, which, let's talk about it. You guys, if you saw Tiger King, which I feel like all of America saw Tiger King.
Tiger King was the start of the quarantine, and it
hit.
It was one of the great just like television
and
shows.
Joe Exotic was also one of those characters, and that's what also I feel like makes a lot of these shows are these people who you're like, this is the most wild person I've ever seen. The delusion, the ego, I'm sure at some point, like, a lot of trauma that this person has gone through that has led them to the point where they think they can safely own these exotic animals that were never meant to be domesticated, and think that these animals are not going to turn on them and it's not going to end poorly. Which is basically this Chimp Crazy, which is on HBO. It's about this woman, Tanya Haddix, who, again, very similar to the Carol Baskin, Joe Exotic figure. She has been raising chimps, and she's obsessed with chimpanzees. And then she also, too, as a side hustle to make money, breeds these animals. And she's like a middleman between finding like black market exotic animals. Like, she's a horrible person. But there also is this point where you're like, does she know how bad of a person she is? Like, because she says how much she loves, like, she literally tells her own son that she loves the chimps more than she loves her own son. Like, she really, I think that she has this sick obsession with it, but she just is an idiot and
Th-
doesn't know.
they typically don't know, right? Um, I'm going to go way on tangent, and I'm not. This is not science related. I'm just making a speculation
Yeah.
more so. Is not to get too dark, but I guess it's the best example that's relevant if you look at, say, a sociopath or a
Yeah.
serial killer,
Yeah.
right? They think they're doing, some of them think at the time that they're doing something that's not
Helpful.
wrong, right? It is more impulse. And a lot of them get to the point where they realize it's wrong and can say it's wrong.
Yep.
But there are people of that delusional level, like a Charles Manson or
Yeah.
others that, or say, a cult leader, right?
Right.
They get to that disconnect
Right.
from
Well,
reality.
yeah, delusion. Like
Yeah.
it's a pure delusion where she literally thinks these chimps are her kids.
She thinks she's better at taking care of them, but
And
yeah.
that's exactly what she does. She feeds them McDonald's. Like, the food that she feeds these chimps is so sad. They are locked in these cages, stuck in a basement, never let outside. It's just insane. Um, but this show does, a pretty good job of highlighting too that this has become a big problem, that this is like not like an isolated incident, and people really, there is like this black market and this community of people out there that try to own exotic animals.
Yeah.
And this group of, specifically, a lot of them are women who buy these chimps and treat them like almost as if they're human children. And
Get a dog.
no, that's why it's like, get a cat. Like, it's like, but they are so similar to humans. It's almost like having a human baby, but you can pretty much get it to do whatever you want,
Mm-hmm.
which is like so scary and so messed up. But it's just, these women are like, will breastfeed these baby
Oh,
monkeys. Like,
Jesus.
it's so wild. It's sick. But there was a case that happened in 2009 in Stanford, and I had heard about this. Funny enough, I think where I had originally heard of it is I saw it on Oprah. The victim of the story went on Oprah, and it was like the craziest interview. It was like, and it was one of the first facial full face transplants that had ever occurred because of this chimp. So it was in 2009 in Stamford, Connecticut. This woman named Sandra, she again was one of these crazy women that tried to own a chimpanzee. This chimp was named Travis. And again, a lot of time when they're young, like, it is fun, like, they're pretty innocent, but of course as they get older, they become
Hormones hit.
extremely yeah, and it's no joke that these primates can literally murder you. So, and that's kind of close to what ended up happening. So she basically got this chimp from like some black market situation, and then had her friend, what was her friend's name? Charla. Her friend Charla came over the house, and she would like let Travis run around her house, and like, still, even as he was getting older, um he obviously was getting stronger, and he would break out. There were a couple instances where he had broken out of the house, and like, he was like walking down some of like the main streets in Stanford. But somehow he was triggered when her friend came over, and literally, James, almost like completely removed the entire front of her face.
There's a story from a long time ago. I remember, I think, okay, all these facts are going to be wrong. I might have to look it up, but
Yep.
it was something that happened in Japan, and somebody owned a chimp and it ripped their arms off.
Yeah.
Like,
Like,
literally.
and
Man,
like with ease.
these things are so much stronger than we are, and
So
you
much
don't think
stronger.
about it, and it's
And it
not even
takes
a
like one
question.
little thing, and it's hormones. Like a lot of the time, what's so sad is like afterwards, the chimps will be like, "Oh, like what did I do? Oh my god,"
They're
like
extremely territorial. Like that's
yeah. And that's what they think happened. She came over and like she brought like some sort of toy, apparently like some stuffed toy, and it was just like the kind of thing that he needed to see to set him off. And there's just no stop. Like once that starts, like and unfortunately too, of course, the police were called and he had, he was killed.
yeah,
But um just so sad, so scary. And again, like it is a thing that, like, I mean, 2009 also was not that long ago.
no,
It's like that was, and it's just crazy if you go and look up the Travis case like on YouTube and you really like want to just see how destructive the Oprah interviews the woman who was attacked.
oh jeez,
Yeah. And I mean, it's just terrible. I mean, and her arms were also like he ripped like her,
ripped everything
yeah.
up.
Yeah. And it happened a lot, and they highlight over 3 or 4 cases of this happening in Chimp Crazy of people like getting a chimp. The first couple years it's fine, but then again, once they get strong, they have hormones, they are
Especially the
acting like
males.
chimps,
Yeah,
especially the males. And that's what a lot of these women want, like a baby male monkey. It's so fucking weird. It's so insane. So yeah, so don't get a baby monkey. Don't do don't support, I mean, I know there are probably some people out there, but don't support any animal breeding of any kind. Or we shouldn't support any animal breeding of any kind. Adopt, don't shop, and leave the monkeys out of this. Leave the tigers out of it. Get a cat or a dog, okay? Or, maybe a bird or a mouse.
I think you've heard me do this one before, but
What?
in the wisdom of Chris Rock, and I think it was his set it was from a while ago, but it was his comedy set, Bigger and Blacker, and absolutely hysterical. Some of his best stuff.
Yeah.
And he was talking about Siegfried and Roy,
Oh,
and
yeah.
at that time, one of the tigers that Siegfried and Roy
Mhm.
famously used, the white Bengal tigers, Siegfried
Yep.
and Roy got attacked, like mauled, like almost to
Yep.
death.
Yeah, I remember that.
And Chris Rock was like, "You can't get mad at the tiger. Like that
Right.
tiger went tiger." Like I always do think about that
Your
with any of these.
Chris Rock impression is
It's not great.
so good. No, it's gorgeous.
That could you do an Irish for me real quick?
Tag being a tag.
That tiger went tiger. Like I just think
Yeah.
about that,
Yeah.
and I've been saying that for 20 years now. It's like anytime an animal just is an animal,
Yeah, it's
it's
acting
not
like
the
itself.
animal's fault.
No, these people are actual morons. So highly suggest watching it, but it is, I mean, it's sad. It's kind of hard to watch, especially as an animal lover, but it's just, it is an important awareness because it still is happening. And I think there's 4 episodes, and by the time this podcast episode comes out, the 4th episode will be out. So hopefully we will have another video for you soon too. My own take on Tanya, because she is one wild woman. So, and we haven't done a little weird watch recommendation, but there's some good weird watches out there right now. Also, I will get to the Mormon. A lot of people have been recommending there's the Mormon. I was just having James watch a little bit of it. The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. But
Don't forget about Only Murders in the Building.
of course, Only Murders in the Building. Of course, James loves that show.
Love Only
Also,
Murders in the
there's
Building.
another Hulu show. Hulu's been pumping them out lately. There's a Hulu show about like paranormal. I can't remember if I was telling you about this. It's some sort of like unsolved mysteries, but only geared towards like paranormal stories and supernatural.
We go watch that tonight.
And well, I don't know when it comes out. I can't remember. It's sometime in September. But just so much spooky stuff coming out. We'd love to see it, which is a great transition to my next spooky thing I'm obsessed with this week.
Tunnels.
I really just feel like nothing good happens in a tunnel. And I think too, like there was always this fear to like driving through a tunnel that like, yeah, there's a crack in the tunnel, and then the water comes at you, like any underground tunnels, or like, you're gonna get buried underneath the
Are
tunnel.
you referencing movies now?
Yes. Yes, I am. But also there just is creepy shit that happens in tunnels. Like, tunnels are just like spooky vibes. You know what I mean? And I was watching, again, one of my favorite, the Grim Life Collective YouTube channel. They're like, I think I was showing you some of their videos, but they're like so weird,
Oh, that
and
couple.
yeah,
Oh,
and
they're
they
cute. I
love
like
doing
them.
spooky stuff. And they were doing some tunnel explorations, and I became obsessed. And then I was looking up, like, yeah, what are the most haunted tunnels? Like, are there any haunted tunnels near us? Because, like, there is that ghost story, and I feel like a lot of these fall under these haunted tunnel stories, but there's always this haunted tunnel story that, like, you drive through this tunnel, you turn your car off, and then you go to turn your car back on, and you can't turn it on. Or like someone's pushing your car, or like, that was always the thing too, is it's like, if you go in a tunnel and then you like put like some sort of like spray on the back. I don't know how this would exactly work, or some sort of like dust or flour or something. And then if you turn off your car and wait there, and then you look at the back of your car, James is looking at me like I am a moron. You'll see like fingerprints of like someone trying to push your car out of the tunnel. Spooky, right?
I've never
Spooky.
heard that
You
before.
haven't?
No.
Well, you obviously are normal. I just love, like, tunnels just freak me out. And did you know one of the most haunted tunnels in America is in Tennessee?
I did
You want
not
to hear
know
about
that.
this tunnel? And this is where a lot of these stories have started, about turning off your car, like having your car being pushed, like
Okay.
feeling like your car is moving. And I'm curious if any of you guys live near here. It's in Hawkins County in Tennessee. This tunnel was built in 1920. And the story is, in like 1929, there was a family, the Sensabog family, that lived right at the end of the tunnel in this huge white mansion, which you can still see today if you go to the tunnel. And apparently in 1929, a burglar broke into their house. They had a newborn baby, like a month-old newborn baby, killed the baby,
Oh my God.
and apparently like tried to murder. He had like a daughter and a wife. And somehow they survived, but they say like a couple months later, Mr. Sensabog, like the owner of the house, he lost his mind, and then he ended up killing his wife and daughter,
Oh my God.
because he went, because he was just so upset by the burglar, because he felt like he could have done something. And so now the tunnel is haunted by the family. And apparently, like, there's also the idea of screamings being heard. Like, if you go there in the middle of the night and stand in the tunnel, you'll hear screams, you'll hear a baby crying. Um, there is also apparently another woman or young female who took her own life jumping off the top of the tunnel in like the street to get hit by something. And you'll see her like running down the tunnel, a girl in a white dress. Um, and that's apparently one of the most haunted tunnels in America. And there really are haunted tunnels out there. Now, one of the most haunted tunnels in the world, I know that was your next question, James. You said,
I'm
okay, that's cool.
dying to ask that.
But what about the most haunted tunnel in the world? Well, really, by my research, of course, most people said the catacombs in Paris, which technically, are they tunnels? Kind of, sort of. I mean, it's not like a mountain valley side tunnel that you would normally think of,
Was it
but
built or was it cut out of the rock?
cut out of the rock. So I think that's a tunnel
I could
then.
still kind of go tunnel there.
Yeah. Did you know it's 180 miles long? They have 180 miles of underground
I've
tunnels.
heard it's crazy big. Yeah.
And it was first dug by the Romans, which, because they were building it out and cutting it out because it was really rich in limestone,
Hmm.
and they needed limestone to build the any of the infrastructure. And now you can go, obviously there's a public part of the catacombs, but it's only less than half a mile is open to the public. And there is like that area where they had to move bodies because the graveyard was overflowing back in like the 18th century. So there are over 6 million bones of people now in the catacombs.
That's a lot.
And they were literally just moved there because they were running out of space in the local cemeteries in Paris. And there's just a lot of really freaky, weird stories because, like, this was other too. There's all like these underground tunnels too, apparently in Las Vegas. Like, I can't remember if we've talked about this before. Have we talked about this? Like, how there's underground tunnels and like communities that live under Las
I'm
Vegas.
familiar with the Las Vegas vagabonds. Yes.
Yes. Well, this is like the same idea, is that like because this area is so large and there's so many multiple ways of getting like hidden secret,
There
obviously
has
known
to
the
be.
public, that there are like communities, like huge communities of people that now live under
I
there.
mean, 180 miles and only half a mile
Is
is
public.
public. That's a lot of space.
Yeah. And even like we had watched, like this was a couple months ago, we had watched a History Channel episode on the catacombs, which you can watch. And they go, I think it's like, like 2 levels down, and they have to go like, I mean, crawling through like ways that I could never even imagine, trying to get to this underground brewery that was originally built like, again, over 200 years ago. But it's like this huge open room with like, I mean, just the graffiti alone and like the artwork on the walls, like it still looks like there are tables and chairs made out of stone. And it's just like, yeah, it's hard to believe that like people couldn't like make, you could just like never find people down there because they're so like, they're little like crevices that you have to crawl through. And which also leads to a lot of people getting
Well,
lost
I was just gonna say, well, how many people get lost on there? But then,
because it's not
if
like you have cell phone service down there either.
if people do live down there, so let's go back to people living down there. I kind of see it as one of those situations where they know those catacombs better than the authorities, better than anybody else. And there's probably plenty of areas that they can go and hide and
Sneak
stay
out.
away if they need to. And maybe as long as they're not causing problems, why go fish them out?
Right.
Right.
Well, so in 2004, there was like a lot of activity that was going on in these catacombs. Like there was some violence, there were like gang activity, and they ended up like almost building like a little police force basically for police to kind of watch out, and kind of explore the catacombs and make sure there's nothing illegal going on down there. And apparently there was a group of these police officers that one day were going really deep into a part where they had heard there was some activity going on, and they came across like this huge wing segment of the tunnels where there was a PA system playing the sounds of barking dogs. They're like, that's weird. And there was like, somehow some weird entrance of getting around the the entrance to this section. And they come in and there's literally a bar, like it looks like almost like kind of like the inside of like a nicer mall. Like they've literally built out a bar area. They had a cinema, like you had like a movie theater. There was like a sleeping area, like almost like a little like hotel area for people to sleep, apartment, whatever. A workshop. And they were like, okay, and for some reason there was no one there. Like they couldn't find anyone there, but it looked like people had just been there. So there was only like 3 of these police officers at the time. So they were like, okay, we need to go and like get more people and come back. And once they had finally made their way back, like a day later, the entire place was cleaned out. Like all the, because there were still clothes and stuff there when they had stumbled upon it the first time. Everything was taken out. And there was a sign that just said, don't search for us.
That's That's creepy. That's like
right?
simple and creepy. Like even
Don't
the police
search
force
for
would be
us.
like,
Yeah.
is it really worth it?
Right. Is it worth it? Like, who knows? It's just weird to think about because it's like, yeah, it would be hard to govern people down there. But at the same time, if they want to go down there, it's their free will. But also, it's just creepy. Couldn't pay me enough money to go down there, even though I was thinking about it. Never been to Paris. But if we ever did, I feel like I would have to go down and see the catacombs.
I think you would do better than you think you would. I don't think it's a
I mean, I
whole.
wouldn't do like unexplored area, like going
Yeah,
down
I think
any.
it'd be no different than it would feel like going in the subway.
Yeah, maybe. Except it is, and again, it would be more like a place that's like unlawful, like an area that like a subway, the chances of it falling in on me are pretty low.
And then the public area of the
Like
catacombs,
a public area, yeah, right. Like if
they're
someone was like,
upkeeping
"Hey,
that.
I have a secret entrance. I could bring you in and show you some of the, secret tunnels that public's not allowed to go to," that I'd be like, "Hell no." But I feel like public, would be pretty safe for the most part. So maybe, and as long as like you could see and like close to where the entrance would be. Like we weren't like too far away. Like if we were going down like a mile into these tunnels, again, it's like, but if it's only like half a mile, I think I'd be fine. That wouldn't bug you at all being in like underground in a small space.
I mean, I think it'd be exciting.
Yeah,
It wouldn't like
but it wouldn't scare
totally
you.
bother me. No, you know me though. I usually err on the side of safety.
Well, I know your
So
big scare would be going to the Eiffel Tower.
hate that.
Would you? You wouldn't go to the top of the Eiffel
I
Tower?
would do it with you.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
but you'd be scared.
Would I do it on my own free will just to do that?
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
No, I would want to go find a catacomb bar.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was thinking. The brewery. I was like, oh, this is where
That
James
would be way more
this
fun.
is where James would want to go.
Yeah, catacomb brewery over Eiffel Tower for this guy.
I mean, they were literally crawling through. Like they had to get on their hand, like on their stomach to crawl through parts.
That stuff's kind of terrifying. Yeah,
like,
that's scary.
That's so scary. I could literally never.
It's not my. We've talked about it way too many times. It's not my heights. That's your. I don't like roofs. I don't like heights.
Yeah.
Right. That's being in that type of space doesn't bug me nearly as much. No.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Because heights don't really bother me. So that's why, it's kind of, it works, it balances each other out. All right, James. I'm excited to see what you have to say.
Well, guess what? It's not as
crazy.
We'll find out.
Okay.
But there's a reason why I kept setting it up the way I did.
Sure.
Because I hope it helps our upset listeners that we're so sorry about.
Yeah.
Right? Because part of the reason is they had an expectation of something happening.
Yeah.
And it didn't.
Right.
And what they felt was disappointment.
Right.
Right. So what we had touched on a long time ago is we were talking about going to a movie and how expectations can change how you feel about the outcome of a movie.
Totally.
What I originally was going to do that I had scared you with way earlier, but then I did change it. And I think I told you I was changing it because I couldn't get the full article, remember?
Right. Yeah.
Is I was going to do how astrology is bullshit, which would be really fun for me to do.
Well, yes. And I think that would be a fun topic to maybe
It's a pretty simple one. Astrology is bullshit. There, simple.
Wow,
done.
He said it.
Science,
he said it.
done.
Cancel him.
All right.
Cancel him.
Cancel that. I don't, those are people I don't need to talk to.
Says
anyway.
the Gemini, by the way. Says the Gemini. That's such a Gemini thing to not believe in astrology, by the way. Just so you know.
The study that I read was done by an Oxford biochemist. So
never heard of it.
I'm going to go with him over the astrology community. Never heard of it. Don't know about it. All right. So,
okay, what do you have?
But what we are going to talk about are expectations.
Right.
And we're going to talk about how expectations, what happens when expectations in a way aren't met, how to possibly change that. And then here's the non-science side, because I don't have proof of this, but I have some suggestions that we can all do maybe to help not let expectations ruin an experience.
Sure. Okay.
How's that
I
sound?
like it.
All
How do
right.
we do
So
that?
what we're looking at, some of the key points we're looking at, again, we're actually reading from a reputable news source, Psychology Today. So
Daily Mail?
we're gonna count this one. I don't know what that is.
One of the top prestigious newspapers.
Sounds like it. Is that a Bravo thing?
No, it's like a UK tabloid, like literally the worst of the
Oh,
worst.
got it. So some of the findings and key points from this uh, and that's why I used this word disappointment before, right? There's other negative emotions. There's anger, there's resentment, there's being upset. There's like a lot of different things, right?
Yeah.
Disappointment is the number one emotion that we experience when our expectations for something aren't met,
Of
right?
course. So
Research
like when
finds, oh, sorry, go
like
ahead.
when you thought, like if I were to use this in a sentence, like you thought your fantasy football make believe teams were going to do so well because you practiced for hours and you
Oh,
did hours and hours and
remember how I
hours.
said we were going to tie that in?
And
You
then
just did.
and then you found out that your team is not good.
They were a dumpster
They're a
fire
bunch of
today.
dumpster fires.
There
And your
was a
Packers
bunch.
also are pretty much out.
My Packers lost. Jordan Love got hurt. It was a
All
rough
those
football weekend.
hours for what?
It was a rough football weekend. In
Yeah.
the biggest money league, though, I'm dominating, so that's a good thing.
Woohoo, $30. Let's go. At Applebee's.
You like Applebee's?
I do.
You would love a good Applebee's date
Fuck
night.
yeah, I would.
Research finds that if we do lower our expectations when we expect a bad outcome, it's to minimize disappointment, right? They didn't find a whole lot on like how the expectations behind movies and TV shows can change how much we enjoy it.
Yeah.
So we kind of have to use another study involving how expectations work to use that to manage our enjoyment of something. And
Okay. What
here's
is the
this
title of this study?
how expectations affect your enjoyment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And the guy does start talking about a TV show, but then he also says that there isn't a lot of like hard research done on that. And
Well, I think, yeah. I mean,
on the TV side of it. But there's actually there was one really good study done. I think this was in Amsterdam. And what they did is
Amsterdam.
they did
I
a
don't
study
trust
of
them.
about 100 students. And what they did is they looked at how they didn't know what they were looking at, but what they did is they told half the students that they were all taking this test. These 100 students were taking a test about their intelligence level.
Okay.
Right. So then you take this intelligence test, and half the students were told you're going to get the results immediately.
Okay.
Half the students were told you're going to get the results in about 2 weeks.
Okay.
Okay. So the students that were going to get the result immediately actually, on average, when they were asked, how do you think you did?
Yeah.
The students that were asked that said they were going to get their results immediately underestimated their scores.
Okay.
Because they were trying to avoid immediate pain. I'll get to how expectations work with this.
Okay.
The students that didn't think they were getting their scores for 2 weeks actually overestimated a little bit how they did. So
Okay.
they did not think they were going to do as bad because they weren't going to feel immediate pain if their expectation of their score wasn't met.
Okay.
All right. So what you can take away from something like that about when you have an expectation about something is a lot of times what we're trying to do is we're just trying to avoid pain when we make a choice of how we feel about something.
Okay.
So if, say, for a long time you have a bunch of buildup about, let's use movies as an example, you have a bunch of buildup about going to see a movie,
yeah.
and it didn't meet your expectations.
Yeah.
Maybe before going into any movie, show, first date, second date, whatever it's going to be, something that brings excitement, right?
Yeah.
Ask yourself, how long have I been thinking about this? Why do I have the expectations that I have? And rather than go into the movie with having an expectation of how good or bad it's going to be, ask yourself, I wonder how this is going to turn out.
Okay.
Turn it into a question. Don't turn it into, is this going to be the best movie I have ever seen? Or don't go in thinking, well, this is Will Ferrell movie, it's got to be as good as Anchorman, right? You can't
Yeah,
do a
yeah,
compare
yeah.
and contrast, but go in saying, I wonder how this is going to be. Turn it into a question rather than an expectation.
Wow. Okay. That's gorgeous, James. Honestly, that's some sound advice. People, you're going into work, you're driving somewhere. How is it going to be? The options are endless. You know?
Be curious,
Be
as Ted Lasso
curious, ask
says.
questions.
As Ted Lasso says.
You love Ted Lasso.
I do love Ted Lasso. They got approved for season
I
4.
was just going to say, is that show over?
No, they got approved for season 4. It
That is
was
so
done.
you.
They were going to go away with it, but now they're bringing it back.
Someone needs to bring you on that show.
I'll volunteer.
It's like Ted Lasso's. They don't have to like pay you. Ted Lasso's
No,
apprentice.
no, I would
He needs
absolutely do
another
that.
one. And it would just be you. For free, working for free. James, that was literally so gorgeous. Thank you so much. It's just
I've also had, I wanted to revisit that one because we talked about expectations before. So remember, if you're excited about something, remember to ask yourself, I wonder how this is going to turn out, not thinking, I know this is going to be amazing, right?
right.
Manage your own expectations.
Right.
I've also want to say thank you to some people. They have sent me some DMs on some suggestions for the Science Corner, which I will start diving into next week. I wanted to go through this one first.
Yeah, no, this one was so important because also like, but you know, like, don't you want to like go into things being positive?
You want to go into things being positive and inquisitive, like
Mhm.
with the open mind
Like, how well is this gonna go for me
versus a
today?
fixed mind. Yeah.
Right. Right. No, I love Oxford studies. Like, there's something about a study from Oxford that
The Oxford
just-
one, that wasn't Oxford. The Oxford one was
oh,
the
what was that one?
astrology one.
Oh, what was that one?
That was more a meta analysis of a couple studies.
Oh, meta analysis, he says. Okay, meta analysis. Why don't you meta analyze the secrets? That's right. It's time for secrets. One of our favorite parts of doing the Weird and Proud podcast is having you guys call in and tell us your weird secrets. Now, it can be a weird, embarrassing story. It can be something weird you do on a daily basis. I mean, we always are throwing out things and ideas for you, but we love hearing your stories and whatever you guys come up with. So, if you want to call in and tell us a weird secret, you can go to
SpeakPipe.
That's speakpipe.com/weird and proud pod. Again, speakpipe.com/weird and proud pod. James, are you ready for the first weird secret?
Prepared.
Here we go.
So I've submitted stories to your podcast before, and one of my secrets got on your live show, and I'm constantly telling everyone about the podcast at work and stuff. So I'm an esthetician, and one day I was talking to one of my clients about the story I submitted that I got on the podcast. And I like to ask people, what their weird secret or story is. And this girl told me that she went on a couple of Tinder dates with this guy, and his parents had this lake house up north in Maine where his parents were going to be gone for the weekend. He's like, it'll be really fun. There's a lake, it's a cabin, whatever. Let's go up there. We'll have a nice weekend. So they got there, and he asked if he could tie her up to one of the banisters in the cabin. And he tied her arms behind her back, and he was like, oh, I'm going to go upstairs. I have something, like, I want to get up there. And while she was waiting for him to return with whatever the item was, his parents walked in, and she wasn't able to cover herself. Again, her hands were tied behind her back, and his mom, she said, was just like murderously screaming, like, what the fuck is going on? And that is probably one of the most horrible things I could think to ever happen.
Yeah, that is top. That's got to be a top one of the most embarrassing, terrifying things that can happen to you, especially with someone that's like new that you're just starting to date. I also love that like that's your prompt now to like ask people when they come in to
That's
see you as a
so.
client.
I
Like
love that.
and that they're so comfortable being like, you want a weird secret? I've got something for you.
That's just
Yeah, it's kind of
spreading the
gorgeous.
love. I do.
Yeah, and it just is like, I'm sure again, like everyone has a story. Like even though like it might be like suppressed trauma, like a lot of people I feel like until someone else brings something up that's close to it, then like, oh my god, that reminds me. It can be a little bit suppressed, but we all have these crazy, I mean, also slightly hilarious, but also traumatic stories or weird situations that happen. And that's got to be one of them. But like also that's on them. That's like also on the parents.
How did How did he not know they were coming up there?
Right. Well, that's the thing is it's like, yeah, like it's like not on the girl. I mean, I know this wasn't you, but like it's the parent, like, and walking in, like, you're not gonna knock. I mean, I guess if they
It's
had no
their
idea,
cabin.
right? But I mean, if they knew that I mean, I would think the son would have messaged them. Been
That's
like,
what
hey,
I'm
gonna be up.
wondering is how did that
Right.
miscommunication happen
But either
between
way,
the son and the parents?
that's so mortifying. Also, I feel like at that point, it's done for. That's hard to come back from. I mean, maybe you could make it like something funny.
Especially, well, it's a Tinder thing too. So
Yeah, probably wasn't your future husband. But that was such a good one. That's pretty embarrassing, pretty weird. And God bless that woman wherever she is. We are thinking of you. We are sending love and light.
I'm glad
to
she
you.
didn't like just roll herself off the bed and hurt herself.
Well, she was stuck.
Yeah,
she was stuck there.
So
How
what
is
do
she
you
supposed to
do? Do
roll
you
up?
stay?
You just
Is she tits up or does she flip over and go ass up?
you just keep your tits up and just start screaming and say your son kidnapped me.
Okay, yeah,
Call
that's you
911.
need to turn it. That's the creative thing to do.
Call 911. Your son kidnapped me.
Save me, exactly.
That was gorgeous. Thank you so much. All right, we've got another weird sleeping one. We've gotten a lot, and I'm curious if you've ever heard of this, James. It's kind of like a James Science Corner possible prompt for you. All right, here we go.
All right. Hi, Sam and James. So I was just listening to one of the episodes and someone had called in about something weird that happens to them when they sleep. And it made me want to talk about this because I feel like I can't be the only one that this happens to because it is actually a thing, but I've never heard of it ever happening to anyone else. So they're called hypnagogic dreams. I think that's how you say it. But essentially I hallucinate and I am fully awake and like I see something, it's clear as day, it's moving. Sometimes I feel it, sometimes I hear it, but like it is fully there and I have to physically get up out of bed to realize that it's not actually there with me. Most of the time for me, it's a giant spider. Sometimes it's in the bed, sometimes it's on the ceiling, like crawling towards me. Sometimes it's on the walls. Sometimes it's a snake. One time I had a person sitting on top of me and I woke my husband up in an absolute panic. He was panicking. He has since gotten used to my weird dreams. They're fairly infrequent, thank God. But yeah, that's a thing that happens sometimes.
Have you ever heard of that?
Did she say hypno-lucid?
No, hypnagogic or hypnagognic?
I'd have to look more up to get the exact terminology.
She hallucinates.
It sounds like, I mean, it just sounds like a lucid dream to
That's
me.
what, yeah, it was kind of
where
more
you're
of
like it's
half
interactive.
Awake. Yeah.
But the hypno part, I guess you'd have to like break down when she said, I have to get out of bed to make sure it's not there.
Yep.
Is she still dreaming of herself getting out of bed to check on the thing? Or is she awake and can still see it?
Right. I don't know.
There's a tough line there.
Right.
Are you so again, we've all had those crazy lucid dreams where we know it's real, but then we wake up when we're in bed, and it might even take you a few seconds to realize you're still in bed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The question is, does she still need to get up out of bed once she's awake to determine between the two states, or is she dreaming when she gets up to check in on the thing.
Yeah. I don't know, but that either way, that's so freaky. So like sleeping is amazing. Like obviously, who doesn't love to sleep? But also sleeping can be so scary.
You don't have a lot of control.
You don't have a lot of control.
It's a very vulnerable place.
It is like
mentally, emotionally, physically.
Yeah, there's just so many scary things. And like sometimes like it is just funny how like your own brain can be so against
She
you.
kind of had the classic 3 of the most classic fears.
Right. No,
Spiders,
literally.
snakes, and like a person attacking, sitting on you, whatever.
Yeah. So spooky. I'm sorry that happens to you, but again, the
Thank you for
amount
sharing.
like I've never had so many calls on like one particular topic because this is probably like a couple months ago now. We had talked about weird things that happen while you sleep, and I still get like multiple calls a week of people saying still like telling weird things and we still, I mean, every week almost we've had weird things. So you are not alone if you also have weird things that happen to you when you sleep. So I'm sorry. Yeah, again, sorry that's happened to you. That really sucks. But again, apparently people be having some crazy ass dreams, doing some crazy shit. All right. Because we had so many technical issues before the start of this recording this and we had to re-record it so many times, I can see that I'm running out of space and I do not want this podcast to run out of space. So we're going to do one more secret before we end, just because I am nervous if we go too far that I'm going to lose everything and then I'll cry.
Let's hit it.
All right, here we go.
Hi, Sam and James. This is Autumn calling all the way from San Francisco. Hope you're able to come do a show out here in the Bay sometime. I'm calling about a embarrassing story that I have about my husband that he just shared with me last week. And I feel like I'm going to tell everyone I know for the rest of my life this story, and I would like to share it with you now. So my husband is an engineer, and he was sitting in on a Zoom call the other day with a bunch of his bosses, and he thought he was on mute when his boss began talking about a weekend trip that's coming up where they're all supposed to go golfing. And my husband looks to his roommate while thinking that he's on mute and says to him, "I would rather stab myself in the dick with a pitchfork than go on this golf retreat." And my husband's boss, one of them anyway, one of the 4 on the call, paused and said, "Well, I don't even know how to respond to that." And my husband has been impatiently waiting to find out if he loses his job any day. So that's my story. I would love to hear what you two have to think. If you think he's going to get fired, if you think that he's going to be just fine, and any other advice you might have. Thanks for the show. Please come out to the Bay Area. Love you guys. Bye.
How insane is that?
It's been a common thing with Zoom calls.
I know. Well, I think because so many people do Zoom calls now. Like I think not too long ago too, it had someone who would like, the sharing of the screen. You share something that you're not supposed to share. Like there's just so many ways for technology to fail us, and because we use it so much, it's tough because like that that sucks. And like forever, like it's hard to like kind of like your boss will his boss will be like thinking about that. Like that's hard to get someone to not think about when they look at you moving forward.
Lesson 1. This is what I got this from a boss, more of a mentor of mine forever ago. And he used to say all the time, if it's anything related to a work setting, don't say it unless you would if you're being interviewed on CNN.
Right, but he thought he was just saying it to his roommate.
If I am on a Zoom call, I am not saying, and no, that's just, there's my first piece of advice. I'll give advice. I love the advice side. I'll give what I think's going to happen. I don't think anything's going to happen. Right?
Yeah, because he can't get fired.
No, that was his opinion. I think the best thing for him to do is be proactive and address it and tell his boss why he said that and why he doesn't want to go. Make it a very PC, politically correct reason and say, I'm sorry I expressed myself that way, right?
Yeah.
People these days, HR, and this sounds like a big enough company that there's an HR department.
Yeah.
They're not going to let the boss fire him. And
Over that,
more
but-
importantly, I'll give you another reason. Does the boss really want the HR and the rest of the company to know that some of his people don't even want to go on a golf trip with him?
Right. It's more embarrassing for him. Than
There's
anything.
a lot of other things. I personally, it depends on the situation. You can let it go, and you're going to probably you might get interviewed by HR or something like that.
Or
But-
just you don't want your boss to like hate you.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
would
like-
address it, and I would just step up and say, look, I made a mistake.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That's straight out of the book with Jocko Willick's Extreme Leadership.
Here we go. It's quoting the leadership books.
I love that book. I loaned it to your brother. It's you lean into it. You admit fault.
Yeah.
You say why you did it, and you say, I'm so sorry. What else can I do? How can we get past it?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There's the advice side. If he feels, I don't know the whole situation, but if he feels the need to address it, wants to preserve, like you said, more importantly than preserving his job, making sure his boss doesn't have it out for him. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Or just, yeah. Yeah. I feel like that's just the way. It's been like, I'm so sorry. I was having a bad day. I was joking around, you know.
I was trying to make my roommate laugh.
Yeah. I was trying to make my roommate was having a bad day. Yeah. Yeah. But that is so funny at the same time. Like that's.
Or if you want to take the
hysterical.
weird twist, say, I find it very arousing to stab myself in the genitals with a pitchfork.
Yeah, no, that would get you sent to HR.
Yeah.
And then you'll get fired.
Then you get fired.
All right, my laptop is literally screaming at me
We
right
love
now
you guys.
that my laptop is gonna die.
Bye, weirdos.
We love you so much, Colin. Weird and proud.
We're sorry about last week.
We're so
It'll
sorry.
never happen again.
We
We'll give you
love
more warning.